Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, June 28, 2019. And as always, we'll take a look back at last week's eBay auction results, take a look at a few things that are coming up next week on the site, as well as some things that are over on Catawiki. They both have some pretty good things going on as we head into summer. And let's have a look at all that stuff. Before we get started, I wanted to mention that this week we did do a follow-up video to the blog we did on the Cassini search logarithm last week. I mentioned that we were going to do this. It's sort of a tutorial. It's about 30 minutes long, goes through all the different aspects of Cassini and how you should handle it, ways you can better boost your listings, basically is what it amounts to, and how to get the best and most exposure as you possibly can in order to have a higher selling result. Okay, so check that out. It's also posted on the blog itself. We added it to the blog. It's right there. And this is over on the Bidamount.com site. So you want to check that out. Okay. Now, let's see here. Well, here, this is one of the things that went through last week. This was rather nice. It had some damage to it here and there. If you looked at it, you know that. The spout had a bit of a loss, and there was some damage to the underside of the cover, which is not unusual. But I love the decoration. This is on biscuit. It has this nice faux bois woodwork looking ewer with the Fu lion standing behind it. 18th century example. Here's a picture of the bottom of it. Nice looking thing. And in the end, despite the damage and whatnot, it still did fine. It brought $859. But it was an interesting object. I thought this was pretty noteworthy. And let's see, what else? There was this. This was that beautiful Zizhou period, very rounded, beautifully rounded, actually. I love the shape of this thing. Ming Dynasty, Yuan to Ming Dynasty pot. Love the bird on it. Looks like a wild-eyed chicken to me. And it had the very typical outer edge decoration, these quick brush strokes that are very indicative and typical of Zizhou pieces. Then this nice scroll work around the top. It also had that beautiful wire-cut base on it right here. And I explained last week how they did that and so forth and what the purpose of it was to get it off the wheel so they could fire it. But it was a nice thing. And in the end, it did very well. It brought $4,886, and I think it was worth every penny. And I do hope the buyer pays his bill. All right, people out there think they can buy things and not pay for them. They drive me crazy. All right, now on to this. This was a nice bowl. This is yellow ground and ink worked Empress. They call them Empress Dowager bowls or Shixi bowls. This is a pattern that was devised by the Empress Dowager purportedly, and they did them typically in yellow or turquoise blue, and they did them in bowls, most often in bowls or bulb trays, or on big vases occasionally. We had a huge vase done in this palette a number of years ago. We sent it to London. It did fabulously well. But this was a popular pattern, very collectible, and this one did quite well. It brought $2,218. This was not an imperial bowl. It was marked on the bottom, but it was of the period. It was a period bowl, but just, it wasn't quite imperial, but still very nice. All right, now over to this. Was the late Ming Dynasty ironwork seated Buddha on the stand. You see these most often in bronze. This one was an iron. Chinese ironwork is fairly scarce. Don't see a lot of it. And it can be bought fairly reasonably, unless it's a big Buddha figure. If it's a big standing Buddha figure, they're worth a lot of money. But these small tabletop pieces don't typically bring an awful lot. And the Chinese didn't do a lot in iron. They weren't really iron producers too much in the Ming Dynasty for artwork, especially. All right, and this did okay. It brought $305, but it was a dandy buy for somebody who's into religious art, Asian religious art. This was a nice buy. I like that. That was pretty. All right, and then on to this was the Jiaqing Mark and Period plate with the Shao characters all over it, very delicately painted. Really nice brushwork on this. This is not an imperial piece. It is Mark and Period, like the Empress Dowager bowl. It has a Jiaqing mark on it. It's just not imperial, but a very good quality, really nice quality. If you took the time to look at it, you no doubt saw this, that it's just beautifully drawn, gently colored in, all the fine details in the leaves and all that business. And in the end, it did pretty well. It brought $799. It was a very nice thing. Very nice thing. And then over to this was the probably Qing period, Blanc de Chine incense burner with a carved lid, later base, with some sort of a quartz or something, a Fu Lion group sitting on the top. But it was a good-looking piece, and it did pretty well. It brought $2,405, which is right in the range for these, as many of you know, but it was a good example. And then on to this was the pair of pewter, probably late 19th century pewter examples. These were pretty big. These are 23 inches tall, I think, with these inset panels of Beijing enamels or Peking enamels, depending on which way you prefer to look at them, I guess. You can use either. And these were nice. These were good looking. And they ended up bringing $1,388. But these were big. It was a nice big pair in a very good quality. Probably made in, the pewter was probably made in Swato, where most of it was made, and the enamels were brought in, fit into it. Good looking object, though. Objects. And then on to this dragon robe. You may remember last week I mentioned this dragon robe had an opening bid of $2,000. And it was virtually identical to a robe that sold the week before that we had on the site as well, that had an opening bid, I think, of about $20, and it ended up bringing $4,700 or over $4,000. Okay, so here you have a virtually identical robe coming in later, and it brought $2,710. It brought about $1,400 less than the other one, and I think a lot of it was the high starting price hurt it. Okay, there was no need to do that. This thing will find its own level, and the problem with high starting bids is that you end up with fewer bids, less activity, less attention given to it, and less prioritization on the searches for these, especially if it goes for days without getting its first bid. And you'll notice down here also the seller, and we were talking about this in the video. I want to mention this. Too big thing is that he didn't fill out any of the structured data around here. None of it. He skipped all of the structured data for his listing. Okay, really, really bad idea. Really, really bad idea. And I think it caught him. He also put see description and photos up here where the condition box is, and we talked about that in the video. You have to fill that out, okay? If you don't, you're in jeopardy, all right? So he didn't bother with the structured data. He didn't fill out the condition thing, and it ended up bringing $1,400 less. He also started with a very high price, all right? All conditions to lose money. All right, now on to this. I love this. I almost bought this. This was a really nifty bamboo with a bamboo stick teapot. Great looking thing. Probably late 19th, early 20th century. I don't think it was terribly old, but it was a terrific object, an interesting object. It wasn't very, very big. It was only maybe 8 or 10 inches tall. Here's a close-up of it. I love the frog on the top of it. Here's the bottom of it. Nice looking old thing. And in the end, it went pretty reasonably, $67 for a genuine article. I think that was a great little buy for someone. And a very interesting piece. Really interesting. So you can buy nice things out there without going broke. And now we have this. This was that Kangxi vase that was over at Katawiki, sold, and it came over to eBay. It was put up again. All right, and if it was the seller who didn't get paid over at Katawiki, and then he came over here to eBay, put it up, he might have done it a little too soon. All right, because this is a pretty memorable looking pot, and in the end, it brought $2,965, which I think is a little less than it brought at Katawiki, but it may have sold at Katawiki and not been paid for, which can certainly happen. Now, over here, the elephants. These were a nice pair of elephants. Famille Rose, mid to late 19th century. The seller thought they were 20th century. I don't think they were. I think they were mid to late 19th century examples. Nicely done, and they went very reasonably. They had a couple of old repairs and whatnot, but they went for $212, which for these, if you follow these Famille Rose export elephants, this was a pretty cheap price. This was a good buy. And again, no structured data. Okay, I was wondering why they weren't getting any traffic, and I came over and double-checked. They didn't add any structured data to this at all. That was a mistake. Okay, that was a mistake, and as a result, they didn't do terribly well. Now on to this. This was another one of these biscuit decorated pieces, very similar to the aubergine with the faux bois example we saw early on. This is the same seller had this. This was a dandy little Fu Lion, Love the colors. It was probably an early 20th century piece, late 19th. And it brought $591, which was a pretty good price. I think it did just fine. I don't think it was an overpayment. I don't think it was an underpayment. I think it was right in that range. I sort of looked at these and I was thinking, well, they're all probably worth $500 to $700 or $800 each. The guy had a number of them too. There's some that were interesting. And now over to this, the underglazed blue snuff bottle with underglazed red. Good combination. Once they add underglazed red to these, the values tend to go up. Underglazed blue is simple, but being successful with underglazed blue and red takes a little bit of skill in the kilns, and you often get these little areas of discoloration where it's nice and red here and then it's sort of turned green up here, and that's the copper oxide in the underglazed enamels. And it might have been a little warmer in the kiln, something might have happened, so you get slight areas of discoloration. Here's the back of it. Again, you notice the underglazed red is bright here and then not so bright there, but it adds a nice texture to the piece. Here's the bottom of it, typical 19th century one. But I like this sort of chain deal running around the bottom. It's sort of interesting. And in the end, this did fine. It brought $787, which is right about where underglazed blue and underglazed red snuff bottles typically land, depending how complicated the painting is. Figure them in, always figure them in at, $550 to about $900, right in that range. Unless they're signed, then they bring a lot more. And here's another one of those figures, these biscuit figures. This is obviously of a big peacock. It was very attractive, and I like the way the guy set it up. He somehow got a board or something to shoot it on that's the same color as the piece. There it is, okay? Here's the bottom of it, 19th century looking thing. And it did just fine in the end. It brought $519. It was a rather good example. And it wasn't enormous. It looks bigger in the picture than it was. And then here's that silver, the Chinese silver incense burner. This is pretty elegant looking, and you don't see them very often. Of course, most of them are bronze, so you don't see the silver ones very often. I thought this was interesting. It was probably early 20th century. I'm just guessing from what I can see. He says it's 19th. I think it was probably early 20th, but it's a good-looking piece of silver, and it did fine. It brought $465. All right, this is quite small. You can tell how small it is by the peach. All right, it was a miniature, but still nice quality. And then on to this. This was that nifty cloisonné bowl with cover, and the Chinese ivory finial with the insects worked into it. There was a sort of a blended culture thing going on here. Nice old piece of cloisonné, though. It was from the 19th century, and I love the idea of adding the handle to it. Just thought it was great. Here's the side of it. Good quality work all the way around. Not extraordinary, just good work. It's good work and with an interesting finial. And it ended up going for $275, which I think was a good buy. If you get something that with that kind of interesting composition, for under $500 these days, you're doing pretty well. All right. And then... Now onto this Kangxi plate. It's a well-known pattern. The men playing Go with an attendant in this sort of, a rocky setting, pine trees above them and all that. It was a good-looking dish. And it ended up being $526, which is right in the range for these. This plate with that border, this sort of well-known diaper border, and then the little cartouches of flowers and whatnot, and then a central figural scene. They all seem these days to be going in the $400 to $600 range. This one, though, had a little hairline in it. It still did pretty well. The big ones can bring a lot more. They can bring, $1,500 to $2,000 when you get into the chargers. And then on to the Famille Rose Mandarin bow pot. They call them. The tops have holes in them for planting bulbs. There you go, right there. And very nice. They're often made in pairs. Here's a side shot of the foot. Very typical, mid-19th century. And this one did pretty well. It brought $730. But as a tip, if you have a pair of these, they can bring $2,500. All right? The general rule is a pair is worth 3 times the price of a single, because pairs are harder to come by. All right? As is the case here. They often get broken up by families. This was a very nice early sort of Qinlong, possibly late Yongchen, bar-brimmed bowl with the ascending phoenix and the man and the woman on the patio there on the terrace. Good looking. Only problem with this is it was a little too brightly lit, and I think you lost something in the color translation here. There's a nice close up of it though. Very nice looking example. Still some gilding in her hair. And it went reasonably. $130 for a bar brim bowl. All right. Very, very reasonable. He dated it Yongshen. He handled it. And I'm just dating it as possibly early Qinlang based on the pictures. But the seller doesn't know what he's doing, so he may be quite correct on that. At any rate, that was a heck of a good buy. It was a very nice buy. And then on to this Islamic market export bowl from the mid-19th century. It was about 11 or so inches wide. Nice looking dish, okay? Nice looking bowl. Here's a picture of the side of it, the back of it here, and then nice heavy cobalt overglaze enamels and whatnot. And it was a pretty good buy, $401. Not bad for a big bowl like that. These Middle Eastern market things are quite desirable. They're becoming more and more so, especially if they have Arabic script on them. Then the buyers really go crazy for them. They love those. All righty, now on to this, a little Wanli jar. Those of you like Ming things, this was a good buy. Nice little Wanli jar, very provincially drawn. Not very, very fine work, but very folky. These can be really folkily drawn. Here's a picture of the bottom of it, very typical. And it only went for $190. How good is that? All right, so you could buy a nice little late 1500s piece for $190. And then over here, this was one of the bargains of the week. This really was. This is a Qing period leaf dish with some clobbering on it. Little endless knot added was put on over here, and then these little bats were added, it looks to me. Maybe that's not even clobbering. That may be the actual overglazed red. At any rate, this was a good buy. All right, it only went for, I think, $70 or something. Excuse me, $51 for this. All right, you've seen these on here, and pairs of them can bring 400 and so forth. This was a really, really, really good buy. All right, and what size was it? 4 centimeters, 117 centimeters. This was a big one. It was 8 inches. All right, it's had a little repair to it, but still $51 for that. It's a heck of a nice buy. All right, good color. All right, and then over here, this is one of these Neonia Straits bowls. Unusual color and very finely drawn. If you look at the peacock on this, you'll notice how finely drawn it is. It's very serpentine, and this very unusual brown overglazed enamel on the back in the background here. That's cafe glaze. Here's a picture of the back of it. Nice foot rim on it. 19th century example. Here's the rim. Little flea bite out of it, so a little bit of fritting on it, but very unusual color. And collectors chased this thing down. It ended up going for $3,000. And this is not a big offering dish. It had it's like a taza, and let's see, what size is it? 24 centimeters. So it was only about 8 inches wide. This was not a great big thing, and it brought $3,000 on the nose. All right, now over to this, the Qing dish with the flowers all over it. Very pretty dish, a little over 12 inches in diameter. Sort of it's technically a charger. There's a Jiaqing Mark on the bottom, but very good quality. Nice looking plate. And it ended up going for $731. All right, this was selling Migulari over in London. Very pretty dish, though. There's a lot of Qing stuff around right now. It's a good time to buy it. All right, and then on to this early 20th century tea set. Pretty complete looking, all the little components and the little stands and whatnot. Thought this was pretty nifty. I was kind of surprised the guy put the whole setup as a single lot, but he did, and it ended up bringing $912. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see somebody buy that, split it up, and piece it out and sell it again. All right, it's a lot of work, but you might make money on it. And then this nice 19th century, late 19th century, possibly early 20th, late 19th or so, baluster covered jar like this with the ascending birds on it. You have it looks like a kingfisher or something down here, and then a sparrow, whatnot. It had a Qing mark on it, but it wasn't Qing, but it was decent size. It was over a foot tall. And in the end, it ended up bringing $1,622, but very nicely painted. The decoration on that was quite good. All right. And then over here to this 18th century Wucai basin. Could possibly be transitional period. Nice looking foot on it. All right. Could possibly be Qing rather. But a nice looking thing. And it went pretty reasonably, $499, okay? I think maybe some people didn't think it was that old. I think it is. I think it's at least Kangxi. And let's see, was there any damage or anything to it? Amazing condition. Okay, a little rim fitting and no restoration. Okay, that was a great buy then. All right, that was a good buy right there. Nice looking decoration, nice outlining, good greens and all that business. And it wasn't too small. $499. That was a nice thing to buy for that price. And then onto this, the Kangxi Phoenix Bowl. This is a well-known pattern. We had one of these not long ago. From a collection in London. And this is a nice bowl. I like them when they do the averted rims on it. Here's a picture of the bottom with the Jiaqing Mark on it. It's a Mark and Period bowl. Absolutely nice looking. Good looking foot on it. There it is. And it went reasonably. $811 for one of these things. Sometimes they call these clamp butts bowls. I like them better as averted rim Kangxi bowls. But at any rate, nice looking thing, and that was a pretty good buy. We've seen these sell for $1,200 to $1,500, not unusually. Okay, and then over here, this was that terrific looking pewter teapot that had the what looked to be a Jiaqing liner. It did have. Okay, the guy added some pictures. It looks like. Oh, he did. Look at, he even added the seal in the bottom. All right, but the liner had cracks in it, which he very carefully showed. These are really hard to shoot. All right, but this was a nice ewer, nice old one. It had a signature, but it had a cracked liner, and that does hurt the value, unfortunately. And it still did great. It brought $2,300. But these pots, without the crack in the liner, it probably would have brought more than double that. But once you crack the liners in these, you can't actually really drink tea out of them anymore because the tea soaks into the cracks. All right. Now, let's take a look and see what's coming up in a few days over the next week. There's several nice things we're going to take a look at. At Katawiki, you have this nice looking Kangxi bowl. Beautifully done, mark on the base. It's got the object lantern mark on the bottom. And then this nice 8 Immortals dish in enamel. Good looking plate. And rather unusual central field, with the way they've laid it out with the lotus flower blossoming out on the point, and then the pair of mandarin ducks in the foreground, and then another pair of ducks in the background, one ascending and one looks like it's swimming. All right, and this ends in 8 days. I don't think it has any bids yet. No, no bids yet. These just went up. That's right. All right. And then over here, this is that beaker vase that I mentioned last week. We featured it in the newsletter. Nice looking beaker vase. Closes in another day or so. So if you have that in mind, come back and check on it. Leave a bid on it. It's up to just $214, which is really reasonable for one of these. And it is, how tall is this? 15 centimeters. So it's 6 inches tall. It's a nice size. That's sort of the range that those are. Okay? But I love the pattern on that. I love those patterns. And then you have the ivory card cases. There are a bevy of ivory. I think there's 5 of them on there this week. And they're now listing them as sandalwood, I noticed. Yeah, because you're not supposed to sell ivory on eBay, which is ridiculous. This is clearly nice antique ivory. Not a problem. But anyway, this is a good quality one. And it's sort of a nice size, as you can tell by the hand. But beautiful quality carving, very three-dimensional. Here's a picture of the top, okay, with it open. Sometimes the mouths on these get broken because they try to put the cover on too hard, it cracks them. This one doesn't have any problems there. And it's up to $196. It has 18 bids, and it ends on Sunday. And there's several more that will be in the newsletter along with this one this week, so check it out. All right. And then the Wan Li bottle vase with the horses on it. This is a fairly nice one. You're all familiar with them. And here's the bottom. It was drilled as a lamp at one point. There it is. But it's in good shape. The neck hasn't been cut down. Often these get lamped and they cut the necks down. But as you can see here, the mouth is all nicely done, all fully glazed, so you know it hasn't been cut. And here's the decoration. Good-looking Wan Li vase. And it closes on Tuesday in 4 days. So if you want to take a whack at that, I would urge you to. And it is 27 centimeters tall, or roughly 8 inches in height, which is right on the nose. So that should bring 6 to 800, I would think, anywhere in there. But, you know, so I always say leave a bid. Just leave a bid. As we saw, there were a number of things earlier this week that went very reasonably. And I'm going to bet some of them died on watch lists, okay? So if you see something you like, put it on your watch list first, and then leave a bid on it. And then you're going to be eligible for double notifications as it comes down to the wire in case you get outbid. And it's a much better way to track rather than just throwing it on the watch list and forgetting it. Okay. And on to this nice big, or probably early 20th century enamel vase. Pretty colors, good decoration on it. Let's see if we can get a close-up here. Here it is. Okay, it's nice looking colors, early 20th century by the looks of it, maybe late 19th. It had been a lamp, but it had also been bronze mounted, which I thought was kind of cool. All right, I like the mounts on this thing. The mounts look like they're probably from the 20s or the 30s or something, and probably done in France. This is being sold by a seller in France. They took an awful lot of Chinese Famille Rose and other jars and Ormolu mounted them and really gussied them up either to be used as lamps or just to be a little fancier, standing up on the mantle. All right, and this one is up to just $66. It's got 4 days to go, so you want to check that out. All right, and then that fan painting closes in a couple days that I mentioned last week. It's up to about $800, more than reasonable. This is a wonderful little painting, and I love the scene of the two immortals looking at the scroll, the young man holding up the scroll, and then there's more scrolls over here that they're going to be looking at. Very, very classical, sort of the idealized versions of, you know, scholarly pursuits among the Chinese, out in nature, enjoying nature. All right, we'll see how that does. That closes on Sunday, closes it on this Sunday. All right, this is something I really like. This is a fungus form brush pot. It's beautifully done. The photographs are a little rough, I'm afraid, but this is a nice old one. Good looking surface on this thing. A little dark there. There you go. You can see the layers of the fungi. All right, here's a nice shot of the bottom of it. Here's a detail of it. Okay, this is a really nice old scholar's piece. Really, really attractive. Has a later stand. It's up to $400. It closes Sunday. If you collect brush pots and scholar stuff, you really ought to look at this. I think this has got a lot going on for it. I think it's a very, very nice brush pot. And it's only up to $406, which is extremely reasonable. This is Scrap Dixon is selling that over in France. He gets good things, especially he likes brush pots too. All right, and then on to this reticulated circle ring piece of Amari, very typical of the mid-late 19th, early 20th century, 1880 to 1912. Here's the back of it, very typical Japanese mark. But a good example, and these reticulated circular rimmed dishes like these, they often are broken, as you can imagine. And this one looked to be in quite good condition. So if you collect old Amari, it's a pretty good deal. This closes on Sunday. It's only up to $14. All right? That could be one of the little buys of the week if you like Japanese stuff. And then this bronze, this late Ming bronze of the figure, and it's an incense holder. He's got him holding the incense. And here's a picture of the detail. Nice patina. Okay, look at this nice, warm, thick, rich patina. Good facial characteristics. Nicely done all the way around. There's no apologies to make for this. This is a nice thing. All right, and here's the side of it open. It's got the opening into the base and all that. But good color. Note the color. And it's up to $671. Closes Sunday, so we'll see how it does. I expect it'll go up a good bit more. Probably another third to double where it is now. But a nice looking thing. But very good surface on that. All right. And that wraps it up for the week. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you want to leave a comment, ask a question, make a suggestion, do whatever you want. We're happy to hear from you. And if you haven't joined Bidamount.com yet and you don't get to see the weekly newsletter, come over and subscribe to it. The eBay Today page, use the forum, and all that other stuff. But, get in touch. I hope you enjoy the videos and have a wonderful weekend. I hope you find something out there this weekend that you love. Bring it home, put it in a good spot in your house. All righty. Thanks again, and see you next time. Bye-bye.